welcome to central London, one of the most brightly lit areas in the entire city. Today we're going to walk through Leicester Square, which we're located right now, and also Piccadilly Circus, which are the Times Square of London. But then we're going to get a little bit closer to Carnaby Street, which is one of the most famous streets when it comes to pop culture and rock and roll history. So join me as we walk around this beautiful area of London at night in 360 video. You can turn the camera any direction that you would like. And the reason we're doing this in 360 video is that because there's a lot to see. There's a lot of cool details with the buildings. Right over here we have like the Empire Theater. Look how gorgeous this is. Even now thinking about it, I didn't notice it before. And we got all the people in the street, people coming in from all around the world. Sometimes there's cool things on the floor like plaques and things like that, or street art. We don't see anything right now. There's statues here. We're going to approach one of... Ooh, we have actually, before I talk about that one, we have a statue right there in the distance of Shakespeare right in front of us. William Shakespeare. Lots of movie theaters here. This is the main movie theater district. So we have the Odeon over there. We have the View Theater over here. We have an IMAX theater over here. And right over here we have a Harry Potter statue. The boy wizard himself. Really well done, actually. Lots of candy stores, things like that. Very typical compared to Times Square. Very similar. So pardon the wind. 360 cameras. Hard to use a microphone with it, so do adjust your volume if necessary. Here's Mary Poppins flying away due to Storm Eunice making a lot of people fly away. If you don't know, Storm Eunice, if you're watching this many years from now, it was apparently the worst storm to hit London in 30 years. There were wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and average winds were about 28, 29 miles per hour. So there were quite fierce winds throughout the entire day. Here's the bells that ring. And right here we have all the different seals. Let's see, the seals. It says, on April 15th, 1991, on the occasion of the 700th anniversary of the Swiss Confederation, the rightful, worshipful Lord Mayor of Westminster, Councillor David Avery, named this the Swiss Court. He has quite a mouthful of a title. The worshipful. I love that. Who wouldn't want to be the worshipful? So do mind all the buildings all around as we're walking around here. There's even a Shake Shack built in the gorgeous 1800s building. This way is Chinatown, which is beautiful in its own right. But let's peek in through Chinatown and then go back to Piccadilly Circus. So for people wondering about accessibility, a lot of London is pretty accessible. The curb isn't too high, and there's usually ramps to the sidewalk, which is nice. I've encountered that almost throughout the entire city. And there's a lot of wayfinding markers. The English are so good at wayfinding. So wayfinding is how you end up controlling the flow of pedestrian traffic and all the markers that you have showing you where to go, how to get there. London is excellent at that. I am immensely surprised because there's signs everywhere, and London is not a street grid like it is New York. And then also in the subway, in the London Underground, the tube, they have a flow of traffic so well done. One way everything. You never encounter someone coming your way. So here, welcome to Chinatown. Let's go to the gates. Here it is. Chinatown, very brightly lit at night. Of course, Britain was ruling over Hong Kong for more than a century, and a lot of those Chinese immigrants did come over here, or they were citizens actually. This is also a great place to grab cheap foods. And cool thing about London, what I like, is that there is always little courts, which is these alleyways where you can find cool other little shops. Hopefully not Jack the Ripper looking about. So we're over here, we see a lot more Chinatown. Chinatown's about like 4 or 5 blocks. Casinos for some reason. I'm shocked to see a casino in the middle of London, to be honest.
Please come and join me at the front here. We'll take 3 steps. It stops the old fire safety police.
So that, I noticed this is very common when it comes to buskers. They encourage the audience to come closer. I think it's like a typical, maybe English thing, the type of culture where people are politely at a distance. So usually the busker has to say like, hey, come closer, you're a bit too far. That's already happened a few times. I've seen buskers out in the street. Buskers, if you don't know, means a street performer, someone who's playing music out and about. So here we see what is called the West End. The West End is not like Broadway. Broadway in New York City denotes the musical theater industry, but also the area where the musical theater industry is based out. Almost all of Broadway is within the realm of Broadway, also called the theater district. Here in London, the West End is the Broadway version of London, but it's kind of more sparsed out. So not all the theaters are located in the same street. Some people also call this Theaterland. So we have a few major theaters here. We have Les Mis right down there. We have, here they're playing To Kill a Mockingbird. It's cool that Les Mis is playing. That's awesome. A show with Penn and Teller right here. Magic Goes Wrong. And a show about Bob Marley down there. So we got a lot of things to see. We could go literally in any direction, but let's go to Piccadilly Circus and show you some Piccadillys. Another thing I really like about London is all the variety of different buildings and architectural styles. Now, of course, that's due to bittersweet reasons, not just due to rampant modernization or gentrification, but also due to the devastation of World War II, where the Germans air raided this city for a very, very long time. If the Americans wouldn't have come in, who knows what would happen to London. Might have been total destruction on the level that you would have seen with Tokyo. But nonetheless, a lot of buildings were destroyed, especially in the central London, and that's why you have modern buildings right next to older buildings. It was because they're leveled, not because the Londoners don't conserve their architecture, because they do. They're very serious about conserving architecture, even more so than even New York. But World War II forced their hand in having these empty lots, which they had to build anew. Here we have the Book of Mormon playing, what appears to be called the Prince of Wales Theatre, right up there. Got bubblegum shrimp, classic British institution. Not at all. That's a very American chain based off Forrest Gump. Lots of souvenir shops all around here. This is a very kind of popular area for tourists. This is the tourist hub in essence. So you're also going to find more kind of foods for catering to specific tourists, like hot pots over here for a lot of Chinese and Korean tourists. You got steakhouses to service the American tourists who come over here. And let's cross the street over here. And we got the red phone booths. I'm gonna peek in with the camera. The cool thing about 360 is I could just peek in. It goes through. Yeah. Let me in. So no phone booth at the phone booth anymore. But it's really cool. Sometimes they have defibrillators, hard word to pronounce, in order to revive someone. We got another British institution, Five Guys. Alright, actually not, that's American. A lot of American stuff here. Maybe once we get into Soho, go Carnaby Street, we'll see a little bit more British stuff. But look above. You'll see sculptures above. Like those three men diving, 3 men or women diving. Lots of reliefs up here. So let's go into Piccadilly Circus. The Times Square, the official Times Square of London. Official because it's the one that has huge, gigantic billboards. Not as much as Times Square though. Only like one, and there's like one more other. This is where everyone meets. Featured in countless films and TV shows, music videos as well. Tell us where everything is right over here. Here's the London Underground, the Bakerloo line and the Piccadilly line. Now, there it says public subway right next to the underground sign. The reason it says public subway is because subway doesn't denote the tube, which is the underground, the metro system. Subway is the name for the underpass. So you can actually go to the stairs and get to the other side of the street without crossing the traffic over here. And here we are, the center of London. Playing some popular tunes. So here we have the famous, well, it used to be a fountain, no longer. Wow. A lot of famous stores around here. You go this way, you'll see a lot of stores at Regent Street. Very popular shopping district. It's almost like the 5th Avenue of London. But now we're gonna make our way to Carnaby Street. And the guy's playing Despacito. I cannot escape reggaeton, that busker, playing the song of my people. Despacito. with Luis Fonsi. So let's go to Carnaby Street. Now I gotta check the phone because I actually can't really navigate my way easily around here. Alright. Cool, so we gotta go like generally this way. Let's do it. So while it's amazing to wander around London, you could get lost. Obviously the city has its limits, and you'll realize if you ever leave central London. It'll take you a while to leave central London, but it's a beautiful city to wander around, which I do recommend. But in this case, I just want to kind of get straight to Carnaby Street to show it to you. So we're about 5 minutes away, directly ahead. And here we're going to the backsides of London. Oh, I love all the red, the rouge. Moulin Rouge. Whole Foods. British institution. Alright, maybe not. American as well. Moulin Rouge. French. Yeah. Okay. We'll find something British soon. Maybe a pub. At least the architecture's British. That's a good thing. Okay, everyone, I actually have my shoes untied. Usually they're nicely, completely tied, but in this case, I gotta tie them. So bear with me as I tie my shoes. This is a danger hazard. You can't risk shoes being untied in a city like London. There we go. We're ready. Okay. Joe and the Juice. A British... It's Danish. Okay. Okay, here we go. Something really British. The Crown. You can't get more British than the pub named The Crown. On the street called Brewer Street. At least this is British. Let me show you through the window. Over here. Beautiful little pub. The Crown sits on the site of one of the most well-known popular concert halls, the Hickford Rooms. During the first half of the 18th century, it was the most prestigious music hall in London. One notable concert of its latter days was given by Mozart and his sister, right over here. In 1765, only 9 years old, Mozart gave recitals in the Hickford Rooms in front of European royalty. Wow! Now this is proper British, where you have a pub with a really long storied history. That's proper British. Let's continue walking through. Now, why are we going through here? So we just went through Leicester Square, we went to Piccadilly Circus. This is the other cool part of London in the past 100 years. We're now in the neighborhood of Soho. And Soho has so many cool nooks and crannies. Not to be confused with Soho, New York. Apparently they don't get this, the name is not related. The reason this is called Soho is because this used to be a private hunting ground for royalty, for the king. And when he would shoot a pheasant, not a peasant. I hope the king wasn't that savage. A pheasant. He would yell, "Soho!" Apparently that was like the hunter's cry. Soho! And this became Soho. And there we go. And then later on in the 20th century, this became a very hip neighborhood. It wasn't quite the richest neighborhood. It was a very bohemian neighborhood, filled with artists and poets and musicians. Famous musicians like Jimi Hendrix was based here. Then even before, you had political scientists and philosophers based here, like the likes of Karl Marx even lived here for a while. Yeah, a lot of people. And the way you can tell just by seeing a plaque over here, which we're going to approach. So, cool. The best way to learn about London history is by wandering and by looking at plaques like this one. So right in front of us, we see that Antonio Canal, called Canaletto, that was his nickname, lived here. I don't know who Antonio Canal is, but apparently he lived here. But you'll find other famous names that you might recognize, like Jimi Hendrix and Karl Marx, which should be one of these corners around here. So those blue plaques, you can't see it being blue right now because it's nighttime, but yeah, it's blue color. Lots of great restaurants here as well. We got classic British New York glasses. Not British. Not British at all. But here's British. Carnaby Street. Let's go.
All those people that do the checking.
Welcome to Carnaby Street. Carnaby Street got its name from the Carnaby House, which was built way back in 1600s. No one knows where the Carnaby House name came from. But during the 20th century, this became the hippest place to buy clothes. So if you were someone, anyone of note in the world of artistry, music, film, or poets, you bought your clothes right around here. A lot of major musicians got their clothes here, like the great Freddie Mercury from Queen. And nowadays we have gift shops, because the Rolling Stones also used to get their clothes here and hang out here. And here we got Rolling Stones gift shop with the huge Rolling Stones logo, the huge tongue sticking out. But unlike the Rolling Stones, Carnaby Street was not painted black. It was painted in rainbow colors, very brightly lit. Also the center of the LGBT culture here in London. And here we have a really beautiful mural that depicts all the major people who lived in this area would hang out on Carnaby Street. We have a host of different characters. You might recognize a few of them. Even Mozart is featured here. Karl Marx is down back there with the huge beard and the big book, if I'm correct. Mozart somewhere around here is very young as well. And we have a host of different people. So let me know who you recognize here. Let me put the camera even further up. Gorgeous, gorgeous mural. Now we're going to continue walking the rest of Carnaby Street, but before we do, I'm going to show you a cool little secret here. Kingly Court. Do wander into the courts here in London. And I'm not talking about the legal courts. Don't get into legal trouble. But do wander into the street courts. Because look at this. We got cool restaurants here, like the Good Egg, Marsha Stacks, Pizza Pilgrims, Rum Kitchen. You got Van Store. It's really cool. And we gotta go back out this way. As I mentioned, there's always a lot of accessibility all around London. A lot of places have elevators too. It's a very accessible city. Now let's walk the rest of Carnaby Street. Ah, my favorite store, Scotch and Soda, is here. Also not British, it is Dutch. Do look up at the sign right over here. That's the British flag, glittering at night with Carnaby written in the center. I'm not sure if it's easy to make out with the camera right now, but it does sure look pretty. Lots of pretty lighting displays here. Wow, look at this. That's why I'm coming here at night. This area really does shine at night.
I feel like
And imagine living up here. How would that feel? Yeah. Would you live here? Let me know. During the daytime, it must be very noisy. Especially also during a weekend night. If you are supporting via Patreon, YT, or FB and seeing this beforehand, before it's posted publicly, if it's ever posted publicly, thank you so much for your kind contributions. This was an adventure from Leicester Square to Carnaby Street. Some of the coolest parts of London of the 1900s. Still cool because it's still very touristy as well. I hope you enjoyed this adventure through this area of London, and hope you can see a whole host of different details when you rewatch it in 360 video. I'm Ariel, this is Urbanist, keep being awesome, and always keep on exploring. Cheerio!